Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this licensing hearing for Veezu. I'll start by just asking members of the subcommittee whether you have any disclosable interests to declare. No, me neither. Okay, I will introduce the members of the subcommittee and officers. I'm Councillor Rachel Melly. I'll be chairing this hearing. On my right is Councillor Wilson, and on my left is Councillor Nichols. And then around the table, we've got various officers, Angela Bilby from Democratic Services, Sandra Brannigan, who's our senior lawyer, Dave Cowley, who's the taxi licensing manager, and Matt Boxall, who's head of public protection. Welcome, everybody. Could you two please introduce yourselves and use the microphones so everybody can hear? Really? Yes, and then a light will come on.
Great. Yeah. Good morning. My name's
Morning, Chris Hall. I'm the regional managing director for the North for Veezu.
Great. Welcome, both of you. Thank you very much for being here. I should have double checked that everyone has understood the procedure that we're going to follow today. It was in the start of the agenda pack. This is new for all of us. It's the first time any of us have done one of these hearings, so I want to be doubly sure that everybody fully understands what the process is that we're going to follow today. Yeah, great. Thank you. In that case, I'll invite the licensing officer to present the report.
Yes, thank you, Chair, councillors. This report seeks the subcommittee's determination of an application for a private hire operator's licence. The operating premises will be situated at 39 Layerthorpe at York. The applicant in this is Josh Ryan and Arun Singh as Veezu North Ltd, trading as Veezu. A copy of the application can be found at Annex 1 of this report. The council must determine an application for an operator's licence on its own merits and in accordance with the legislative framework, taking into account the application form and any submitted documents and relevant information. Section 55 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1976 provides that the council shall, on receipt of an application from any person for the grant of that person of a licence to operate private hire vehicles, provided that the council shall not grant a licence unless they are satisfied that the applicant is a fit and proper person to hold an operator's licence. The legislation also states that the licence is to remain in force for 5 years or such a lesser period as the council thinks appropriate in the circumstances of the case. Members of the subcommittee can determine a lesser period if they feel there are grounds to do so. The premises has planning permission for the use of a private hire operator's licence. A copy of the planning is attached at Annex 2 of this report. The premises is currently in operation as Drive Private Hire. The applicant is in the process of purchasing the business. Legislation in this case does not allow for a transfer of a private hire operator's licence, and therefore an application for the grant of an operator's licence is required. The background is as well that the council's taxi licensing policy was reviewed and revised and was adopted by the council's executive on the 22nd of November 2024, and it was with an implementation date of the 23rd of November 2024. The adoption of the legislation and policy allows the council to set conditions on the grant of a private hire operator's licence. A copy of the City of York's Council's standard conditions for private hire operators is attached to Annex 3 of this report. The council may also attach such conditions on a private hire operator's licence as they consider necessary. A private hire operator is defined in legislation as a person who in the course of business makes provisions for the invitation or acceptance of a booking for a private hire vehicle. The applicant in this case holds 115 private hire operators licenses issued by various councils nationally. Annex 4 of the report provides and shows a map of the location of the premises. To support their application, the applicant has also provided a copy of their health and safety policy, their safeguarding policy and data protection policy, which can be found at Annex 5, 6 and 7 of this report. The Deregulation Act of 2015 amends the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act and allows a person licensed as a private hire operator under Section 55 in one district who has accepted a booking for a private hire vehicle. They may arrange for another person to provide a vehicle to carry out that booking. There is a potential that bookings may be subcontracted to an operator out of district to carry out the journey. For the avoidance of doubt, such practice is considered lawful and an operator should not be considered unfit on this basis. There is a fit and proper test in relation to operators. Like I've said before, the council shall not grant a license unless they are satisfied that the applicant is a fit and proper person to hold a license, and if the applicant is an individual, that the applicant is not disqualified by reasons of the applicant's immigration status from operating private hire vehicles. Annex 8 provides legislation extracts of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act. The licence is granted to a private hire operator based on their fitness and propriety. It has been suggested that the working test for fitness and propriety for private hire operators is: would I be comfortable providing sensitive information such as holiday plans, the movement of my family, or other information to this person, and feel safe in the knowledge that such information will not be used or passed on for criminal or unacceptable purposes? And that's come from the Buttons textbook. The role of a private hire operator goes far beyond simply taking bookings and dispatching vehicles. In the course of making a booking and dispatching a vehicle and a driver, the private hire operator will obtain significant amounts of personal information. For example, when an airport booking is made or returning from an airport, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. It is reasonable apparent that the holiday is being taken and the house is going to be empty for that period. In dishonest hands, this information is extremely valuable, and it's therefore vital that private hire operators are trustworthy and reliable as a driver. Not standing their slight remote role in the terms of safe and suitable. The applicants have undertaken the relevant criminal record checks and submitted the correct documentation required to determine this application. There is no requirement within the 76 Act for consultation to take place in relation to the application. Therefore, consultation has not taken place in relation to this application. The options available today are the council has a duty to grant the licence unless considered that the applicant is not fit and proper to hold a licence. The licence should be granted for a 5-year period unless there are specific reasons. In this particular case, that justifies the grant of the licence for a shorter period. So the options available are option 1, to grant a private hire operator's licence as requested with the standard conditions for a period of 5 years or less, if the council think it's appropriate to do so. Grant the private hire operator's licence with the standard conditions and any additional conditions considered reasonable and necessary for a period of 5 years or less, if the council thinks it's appropriate to do so, or to refuse the application. But the subcommittee, if the subcommittee choose option 3, they must, and they are satisfied that the applicant is not a fit and proper person, the subcommittee must give their reasons for the decision to be reached. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do either of the representatives of the applicant have any questions just on that report for now? We'll just stick to questions for now. No. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do any members of the subcommittee have any questions on the report? Okay, thank you. In that case, I will ask the applicant to present your case. You've got up to 15 minutes. You don't have to use all that time, but between you, if you don't mind, rather than each, just to give us any information in addition to what's been provided that you would like to provide for us. Yeah.
There we go, sorry. Yeah, thanks for inviting us for the meeting today. Just thought to talk a bit about Veezu. We've been in operation since 2013. And as the report says, and our application says, we're licensed by 115 licensing authorities across England and Wales, all of whom deem us to be fit and proper. We've had no revocations, no suspensions, and we hold 5-year licenses with all of those licensing authorities. And our sort of main operating areas are right through the north of England, the Midlands, and to South Wales, the southwest of England, and then on the south coast and in East Anglia as well. So we've got very sort of thorough coverage around the UK. In terms of our business model, we acquire local businesses, but we're very keen to keep that local knowledge in place, but we support it with our technology to give that overall excellent service. But we do know that local markets are very, very different. So we like to keep the expertise that's in the area so that we understand that. And that's both through the operations team and the local team, and obviously working and partnering with the self-employed drivers. We offer services to both commercial and consumer passengers as well. So we have corporate contracts as well as consumers. And as you'll see from the application and from the report, we've got robust compliance processes in place, as evidenced by our safeguarding, our health and safety, and by our data protection compliance. And we also have a compliance team that's just dedicated to licensing and to safeguarding. We're also very keen to support local communities in terms of our work. So we sponsor lots of local charities with a number of charity partners in local areas, as well as sponsoring local football teams and sports teams. So you may sometimes see Veezu sponsoring a number of football teams around the area, and school sports as well. And we're also very, very committed to ESG. So we have an ESG program and strategy, and that's independently verified. So we work with a third party to make sure that we're delivering on all aspects of that. So really just like to sum up by saying, thanks very much for inviting us today. Hopefully you'll consider our application positively, and we really look forward to working with the council and the licensing team. We partner, we see it as a partnership with council, and we work very, very closely in what is a sector that it benefits from having all parties working together. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, that was well under 15 minutes. Does the licensing officer have any relevant questions for the applicant's representatives?
No, I think everything's been covered in the application itself.
Great, thank you very much. And any members of the subcommittee have any questions for the applicant's representatives?
Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
Just on when you, as you say, you take over different companies, how do you consult the views of the drivers in taking over, which some could see as this big corporate international taxi firm, as you say, but you recognise the importance of locality. So what checks do you put in place to make sure the drivers are along with you?
Do you want to talk about that operationally, or
I can talk myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm from 57 taxis who were licensed by York 2 and some years ago, I think it was now. And obviously we've done the hard work on Veezu's behalf of acquiring these 10 businesses, merging them together. There's a lot of goodwill which we need to transfer through. It's about not making any crazy decisions which the drivers would deem as, you're harming their potential earnings and their reputation. So it's much a case of Veezu come in. It's a very gentle process of, we'll keep things as they are for a standalone period unless things have to change, and then gradually, slowly but surely, they'll make positive changes. I think we've been involved now for 6 months now. There's nothing that spooked any of the drivers who worked under us previously.
Yeah, I think it's important. The drivers are self-employed and they're obviously licensed by a licensing authority. So it's important that we retain that partnership approach, and we'd like Chris says, we want to make sure that they will stay as part of our system, taking bookings with us. So it's an important part of the integration process.
And if anybody did kick off, is there something in place that you'd listen to them that they've been unreasonable or reasonable?
Yep, we've still got local teams based in, you know, and the people can call in, they can come in, they can see us. And often you'll find that if a licensed driver is upset, he will vote with his feet and go her feet and go and work for another operator. So they have got the flexibility. If they don't want to partner with Veezu, they can go partner with another company they like. There's no obligation to stay with us, but we just want to try and make things as good for them that they wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
And then in terms of complaints, obviously you've got some good policies there for staff. If a member of the public wasn't happy with the service, you know, sexual misconduct or violence, what's in place as far as a passenger? How do I complain, and what's the process to make sure my complaint was dealt with fairly?
So there are two main ways. There's direct phone bookings that we have, phone operators that take calls. So for those really serious ones, they'll often come in that way. And whether it's from the person themselves or from their family, we take those incredibly seriously. So we've got a safeguarding and compliance team that will be immediately escalated to them. And in most of those very serious cases, we would what we call deactivate the driver partner. So they would, from that moment, they wouldn't be able to take a booking on the system anymore. And we would then look into the complaint. So we would speak to the driver partner. We have to be, you know, thoughtful how we do that, but to get their side. But we'd also obviously speak and get as much information from the passenger, but being sensitive to the issue. And if there's also a police complaint component to that, we would work with the police on that. We would also make the driver partner's licensing authority aware. And then if we found that the accusation was true, we would move on to what we call disengagement, where we would remove the driver partner from the system altogether, so they would not be able to take a booking with us. That would then be fully referred to the licensing authority. Obviously, it's up to the licensing authority to determine whether the driver should be fit and proper. In a lot of cases, if the complaint was very, very serious, we would have, and the licensing authority decided not to take that action, we would still consider very carefully whether we wanted to bring that driver partner back onto the system.
Okay, Mark, good.
Any other questions from members of the panel? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. So my question was just specific to York. So with our, excuse me, with our new policy, one of the things that we've stated is that for private hire operators with more than 91 vehicles like yourselves, that one wheelchair accessible vehicle is operational at all times. And I just wondered if you could talk me through how you're planning to fit in with that.
So currently at the moment, we are, although we are licensed for 91 plus vehicles, we're currently operating week to week with around 50 to 60 licensed York drivers on the fleet. They are quite, what's the word, quite a scarce commodity in York as well, which is an issue. As we scale, you know, it's something that we do try to offer as a service, as part of the service, but we're not quite at the 91 yet where it would be required. But I know that there is a drive to try and get more wheelchair accessible vehicles on the road. But it is something which, you know, down the line we will have to deal with as even when we grow to that level. It's just something which we haven't got to at the moment.
Thanks. So, excuse me. So just to clarify, that's so it does the 91 vehicles, and possibly David can come in on this. It's just if there's 91 vehicles that are individually licensed by us, that would require that to happen.
Yeah, it's now the operator can choose a license for 1 to 10, 1 to 30, 1 to 50, 1 to 91. Once that operational number is reached, then the requirement for that condition would be there.
So that just raises a little concern for me that as hopefully, I'm guessing you're hoping that the business will grow and need more, that actually it's in your interest to keep people contracted from other licensing authorities to prevent the need to do that. So it would be.
No, but not by any stretch. The plan is to grow in every area, and our, as 57, I can talk personally that, you know, it was always our plan to use York licensed drivers within York, but due to the constraints of the number of vehicles which were licensed, we saw there was no alternative for us other than to bring in, you know, to utilise the Deregulation Act. You know, we would love to work with the authority and try and, you know, if we could make it York only, we would do. But at the moment, due to the numbers of vehicles on the road, it would be impossible to offer a service given the number of drivers which are available to us.
it's something nationally that we try to work with all licensing authorities on, because it's the same everywhere in terms of the challenge. And I think, you know, without getting into sort of the lobbying mode, I think the thing we're really keen on is to see either nationally or a local level more subsidies, more incentives for drivers to purchase those cars. I think that will increase the numbers then. So, and again, it's something we'd be more than happy to partner up on.
Yeah, because you'll appreciate that in York, it is an issue for somebody with a disability that getting a taxi from anywhere is very challenging. So good to hear that. Thank you.
Any other questions from subcommittee? I've got a couple then. Conditions 33, 34 and 35 are about subcontracting to drivers that are licensed by a different local authority, not York. Could you tell us a bit about what your plans are for complying with those conditions, please?
Just as some comfort, we had a base inspection, was it January, Dave, after the operator's license renewal was December. I think we were inspected by Robbie in January, came away with 25 out of 25 on the council's inspection sheet, give us a green sticker. So we were fully compliant across the council's requirements for everything which you requested that we do, informing the passenger that a vehicle is licensed elsewhere, if the vehicle is licensed elsewhere when it's dispatched to them. So upon taking the booking, we're not sure who's going to do it, but once the vehicle is dispatched, we will then inform the passenger that a driver is licensed by another authority.
How would they be informed?
As an SMS, direct to their phone.
And then if they wish to cancel the booking?
They can cancel with no penalty, no charge.
Great, thank you very much. And my other question was, again, a kind of specific local to York question about, we've got a pedestrianised area in the city centre. So most people during the operating hours of that pedestrianised area can't book a vehicle to drive into that area unless they have a blue badge, and then they can. So I was just wondering what systems you have in place for that aspect of accessibility. Again, there's lots of local knowledge within our business. We employ York staff who are aware of the pedestrianised zone. Our system will, if they try to put an address into the system, which will then falls within the pedestrianised zone, it will then inform them of where to ask the passenger to wait. So York Minster Dean Hotel as an example. And then obviously if anyone has got any specific requirements which we can meet, we will obviously add that to the booking and allow the drivers to know that somebody is able to, you know, they've got the blue badge to be picked up wherever they need to be picked up. Any other questions from anyone on the panel? No? Okay, thank you. In that case, we'll move on to, I'll invite the licensing officer to make any closing remarks or summation or any new points.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In relation to this application, the applicant has completed all the relevant information. We are aware that it is a private, an outstanding private hire operation that the applicant is taking over. I can confirm that operation, as it stands at the moment, did comply with all the relevant conditions which are attached to the grant of a private hire operator's license in January. And therefore it's just for members to determine the application on the merits that are set before you today.
Thank you very much. Then I'll invite the applicant's representatives to sum up anything that or add anything that you'd like to add. Nothing further from us. No. Thank you. Just double check if there's any final questions. We've got all the information we need. Okay. In that case, the options, as explained by the officer in the report, on page 13 of the report, either to grant the private hire operator's license as requested with the standard conditions for a period of 5 years or a lesser period if necessary, or grant the operator's license with the standard conditions and any additional conditions if we feel any are necessary, or refuse with providing grounds. So I'll invite anyone on the panel to express any opinions on any of those options or propose them.
So my feeling is that there's not any issue with the fit and proper person to operate the license. So that part feels like that's okay. So then I wonder whether it's just the discussion about how long a period they operate for and whether people have got any feelings about whether we shorten that or whether we leave it at the 5 years.
Well, 5 years is standard. Over the last few years, we have granted quite a few operators license for a shorter period while we review our licensing policy. And now that that's in place and we've got these conditions and we, can see that they are being complied with, I can't see any reason for a shorter period than 5 years. Any other opinions? Yeah, okay. In terms of conditions, are there any other conditions that you feel might be necessary and proportionate other than those standard conditions already? So it looks like we're leaning towards option 1 then. Yeah, I'll propose option 1. Would anybody like to second that?
Yeah, happy to second.
Yeah, okay. Any debate on that? Okay, in that case, all those in favour of option 1 to grant licenses requested for a period of 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, then that's decision it'll be granted, and then you'll receive all the formal paperwork ASAP in writing. Just check what the actual wording is in the procedure. Yeah, the decision of the subcommittee together with the rights of appeal will be confirmed in writing. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for your time today for this hearing. Have a good day.